everybody, today I am in a neighborhood that is what I would call a pretty typical neighborhood with an HOA. So we're gonna talk about HOAs in this video a little bit, because when people are moving to the Indianapolis metro, anywhere around Indianapolis and inside the city itself, you're gonna see HOAs as a pretty common thing. So we're gonna get into what they're all about, what you can really expect in this video. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about HOAs in Indianapolis, or anything about living in Indianapolis, or any of the cities and towns that surround Indianapolis, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also tap the little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video. Now, we have people reaching out to us from all over the country with questions about HOAs because they scare them and they want to know what to expect, which, you know, anytime you see a set of rules for a neighborhood in which you might be living, you'd want to know what those rules are all about. So if you have questions about that or anything else about living in or around Indianapolis and any of the cities and towns, then make sure you reach out any way you know how. We'll always have your back with those questions, and we'll certainly have your back when it comes time for you to make your move to the Indy Metro. All right, guys, so today I am in what I would say is a pretty typical neighborhood in a suburb of Indianapolis. And I'm actually in Fishers, Indiana. So it's on the northeast side, super popular suburb, about 100,000 people or so here. I believe probably a little over that at this point, and certainly growing out towards the east. But you've got Carmel next door to the west, you've got Noblesville to the north, you've got Westfield a little to the north, you've got Indianapolis just to the south, and then you've got all kinds of other cities and towns that surround Indianapolis. When you go over to the west side, you've got Zionsville, you've got Brownsburg, you've got Avon, Plainfield, just kind of swinging around down to Greenwood, and then you've got Greenfield on the east side. You've got McCordsville on the east side as well. So just lots and lots of places. And there are other smaller places outside of the ones that I've mentioned there. But in every single one of these places, including Indianapolis, you're gonna find lots and lots of neighborhoods, lots of residential neighborhoods and residential areas. And you'll find a lot of places that don't have an HOA, a homeowners association. And that could be good or bad. A lot of people will be moving to this area, or even moving within the area too, don't want an HOA. They absolutely don't want one. And the reason they probably don't want one is because they want some freedom and they want to be able to do whatever it is they want to do with their property, with their home. Now, an HOA is there in a lot of residential neighborhoods to protect the neighborhood a little bit, and also to provide some amenities sometimes for that neighborhood. But an HOA is there in existence essentially to try and maintain the look of a neighborhood. So it's there to help protect the values of the homes in that neighborhood. And this particular one, it does a pretty good job. So, you know, if you have lights out in your garage, or you have a lamppost out front, some of these things, since there aren't any street lights in this neighborhood, there are no street lights at all. You can have street lights, of course, in a lot of other neighborhoods around, but a lot of neighborhoods don't have them. So on your garage, there'll be lights, there'll be lampposts sometimes in the front yard. If it's out, maybe you'll get a letter from the HOA saying, hey, look, it's important that you have those lights fixed or on, the bulbs changed, just because we want a little illumination at night in the neighborhood. So it may be little things like that, or you've got a shutter missing off of your house because a storm blew it down. You'll get a reasonable amount of time to put that back up there, but eventually the HOA might say, hey, let's get this fixed, because we want the look of the neighborhood to be maintained. We want it to look nice for everybody because it helps to maintain the value. But in an HOA, people get kind of a little bit afraid of that, and that it's going to overstep the bounds of what's probably reasonable. And I would say in most cases, that's not going to happen. Most HOAs aren't incredibly restrictive. In fact, most HOAs, it's a little bit of a bonus because, like in this neighborhood here, you can get some amenities. So we've got a little playground, obviously some swings, we've got a play set over there, and of course the big one, because here in the Midwest, a lot of people do have pools, their own pool, but our pool season's not terribly long. It goes generally from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and sometimes September can be really, really warm here, so sometimes it might go a couple of weeks past Labor Day. And if you have your own pool, you can open it whenever you want. But once you start getting to the end of September, it starts to get a little bit cool for an outdoor pool, or you'd have to heat it, and it can get expensive to do that. So this one has all of that. There's a pool right here behind me. They've got a little basketball court as well, and there's actually some tennis courts just on the other side of the pool. I'm gonna walk over that way and you can see that a little bit. So you might get amenities like this, which is actually pretty nice. And your HOA fee, and this one here is under $1,000 a year. that's not too bad for maintaining the entrance to the neighborhood, plowing the streets whenever we do get some snow. Now, it's not gonna plow your sidewalk or your driveway, but they'll plow the streets here, at least get them clear. Maybe not immediately, but sometime really, really soon. They will certainly get to that. So the HOA, it's included that, and then of course something like this. So the HOA helps to pay for maintaining the pool. They're gonna have a reserve in case it needs repairs. The same with the playground. So you essentially can use all of this, even though it's communal. So when you come to the pool, it might be like today. Today it's a summer day, but it's not exactly super hot. It's super comfortable, but it's not hot. Nobody's at the pool yet. School's actually started, so there aren't that many here, but you could have the pool to yourself potentially. But on a weekend or during the summer where it's usually quite hot, this pool is gonna have some people here. But one of the cool things is that when you move into a neighborhood, you go to the pool in May, June, July, August, you're gonna meet people. Your kids are gonna meet people. They're gonna meet other kids in the neighborhood. You are going to meet people, and usually a lot of people make some really good friends at the pool. It's kind of nice to have that, and you don't have it in your own yard, have to worry about the liability of it. You don't have to take care of it yourself. You pay a fee, basically like a membership right there at the pool. Pretty awesome to have, but not every single neighborhood has a pool. So the HOA is just gonna cover those common areas, the entrance, maintaining those, maybe plowing the streets. Sometimes trash could be included, sometimes not, but it's there to protect the neighborhood for the most part. So the biggest things that you can get into with a neighborhood HOA and restrictions might be, well, really the biggest one could be a fence. Can you have a fence or not? And usually the answer is yes, you can have a fence, but you might start getting into some of the rules as to what type of fence can you have? What materials? Can it be wood or an iron fence, or could it be vinyl, something like that? Or maybe a different material, like a chain link fence. So you can get into the materials, you could also get into the height. Sometimes you might have a height restriction. You can't have a 6-foot privacy fence. You can only have a 48 or 42 inch fence. That's of course much shorter, like this one right here behind me. So you can get into restrictions like that, and they'll have an architectural review board or committee, and you have to pass it through that committee. But if you walk through a neighborhood or drive through a neighborhood and you see fences, it's almost 100% that you're gonna be able to put a fence on your lot whenever you move into your home. It's just a matter of getting it passed through the architectural review board, making sure that it looks nice. That's really the main concern for that architectural review board. If you make any changes to your house, major changes to it, you may have to pass it through that review board as well. There may be some color restrictions. You might not be able to paint your home Southern Florida coral and all these super bright beachy colors. You might be stuck in a particular palette. Also, if you have a roof replaced, you might not be able to put any type of roof that you want on that house or any color that you want to put on that house. You might be restricted to 6 or 7 different types. And that is just to help to maintain some of the consistency of the neighborhood. You're still going to be free to do, for the most part, what you want with some rules. You can't get outrageous, because when you have that one outrageous house in the neighborhood, it's the one that sticks out, and sometimes people worry that it's gonna affect the values of all of the other houses. So those HOAs aren't as restrictive though as you might think in that respect, because there are some things that are done to houses that you think, wow, that's pretty questionable, but the HOA allows it anyway because it's done probably at least a very neat way. It's just that maybe aesthetically, it's not something that everybody agrees with, but it's your house. You can do, for the most part, what you want with it within a certain set of boundaries that create some kind of semblance of reason. So when you see that there's an HOA, I wouldn't be afraid of it at all, honestly, because most of them are just not going to be restrictive enough to the point where you just can't live as free as you possibly want in that neighborhood. That's just not going to happen. The HOAs are so incredibly common, and it's still ultimately your home. You can do what you like with your home. And if you're changing the inside of the home, the HOA is not going to have anything to do with the inside of your home. It all has to do with the outside and what the outside looks like, and then any amenities that the HOA might offer you. And for the most part, it is there as a force for good for the neighborhood to help protect not just you, but everybody else in the neighborhood, and the values that we hopefully consistently see across an entire neighborhood. So if you have questions about an HOA, what the restrictions might be, how it might be a good thing for you or maybe a bad thing for you. If you wanted cows or something like that here in this neighborhood, you're not gonna be able to have cows. you're gonna have to get to a place that doesn't have that restriction, and you may get into county restrictions at that point. So HOAs aren't the only thing that you'd have to worry about if you're looking for something that really is outside the realm of what we would consider normal. You have to dig a little bit deeper than an HOA. I think an HOA is probably gonna be the last thing that you need to worry about as far as being allowed to do it, because you probably won't be able to with something like that. So if you have questions about any of that, then make sure you reach out. We get questions all the time about the specifics of HOA rules in particular neighborhoods, or even the rules inside of a county and what you may or may not be able to do. So if you have those questions, reach out any way that you know how. And until the next one, we'll see you later.